Hey guys, it's me, Michelle, during the second episode of the Bipolar Me podcast. I'm off to a really crap start. I'm recording and deleting constantly over and over, and I'm just going to leave it now. We're just going to try to get through this as best we can. Today's title is Bipolar 1 or 2. And quickly, if you do a Google search, you will see that Bipolar 1 is defined as having had at least one episode of mania in your entire life with episodes of depression. I was going to go further in regards to that definition and the definition of bipolar 2. The definition of this cyclolithmia as well, but I'm just going to be honest with you. I think these titles are bullshit. And, I'm going to say some other things that might upset some people. If you hear some dingling, that's my cat jumping up here. But yeah, I'm going to upset some people with my opinion. And this is just my opinion. I believe that trying to diagnose 1 or 2 is actually adding to the misunderstanding and the issues society already faces in regards to mental health and this particular disease. If you note, the first thing you'll see when you go to most websites that discuss bipolar is definitely a generic definition of what bipolar itself is, stating simply you will have had bouts of extenuated high and bouts of depression that could go all the way from, just maybe light depression to suicidal thoughts. And it seems to me that at any given day, these definitions could potentially be given to anybody, especially mania. If you have never had a real manic episode, and you think having a really good day out and feeling wonderful without an explanation, that's just mania. No, that's not mania. Being elevated for a day in your entire life is not mania. And I don't believe that you should be carrying a title of bipolar because you claim to have experienced that day. Because I believe that you may have misinterpreted the situation and that your definition was not given over properly to the person who's given the diagnosis. If you hear some weird noise, my dog is snoring. Yeah, I have some pets, just a dog and a cat, but they do make themselves known. So, I think my personal opinion is that if you've had a manic episode, this will have been disruptive in some way. This is going to deplete your finances. This is going to land you in jail. This is going to destroy a relationship you had. This is going to put you in physical harm. This is something that you would never do on a normal day, that is completely out of character, and you don't even have an explanation as to why it's going on. These are severe episodes, mania. This is not just a little happiness or feeling like you're better than everybody else. This is accompanied sometimes with hallucinations and delusions of grandeur where you are seriously disrupting your place in society and your relationships with loved ones and not loved ones simply because you honestly believe that you know everything. You are God in a body. That's more of what bipolar is. It is a disruptive disorder. It's not a way to define good and bad days. So we're going to just go to my notes. So I've written some things down. So I'm going to state some other issues as far as the 1 or 2 and being diagnosed properly in the first place. I don't care if you're looking for 1 or 2. We're talking about just the bipolar diagnosis. You need to remember that the only person qualified to make a diagnosis is a doctor. It's not a psychologist, a counselor, a therapist, a friend or family member that may also have it or know someone that did, or they're in school studying about it. Only a psychiatrist can make this diagnosis. Even your GP is not qualified to make a diagnosis for mental health. They can only refer you to someone if they see that the issues you're dealing with do seem like episodes of some sort, and it's possible you need some real intervention. They're going to pass that over. They're not going to put that on themselves because they don't know anything about it. They're not educated in that way. So we're going to talk, why is that important? It's obviously, the main reason is that you're being diagnosed by a doctor that can prescribe something that they feel is going to help whatever episodes and symptoms you're dealing with. Your friend can't do that. A psychologist cannot give you medication. And unfortunately, in the bipolar world, medication is necessary, and it is almost always offered. It is usually just the symptoms they're trying to deal with. They cannot cure bipolar. There are no bipolar medications, but some medications that have already been, say, invented or created were done so for some of the symptoms that you may experience, such as anxiety and racing thoughts. So sometimes you may need some help with that. That's not going to come in any other form than medication. You are able to deal with some of these things with CBT and talking therapy, but that takes time, and sometimes people are not willing to deal with their symptoms and episodes while they're waiting for that time to come. So you need not be ashamed, afraid, or embarrassed to seek out medication, because it can help. Also, it helps you to be able to inform anybody you love, any of your supporters, any of your carers, what you're properly dealing with. To say, oh, I think I've got bipolar, go read up on that. And then every time you have a problem, you say, well, I told you I was bipolar. No, that's not an appropriate way to do things. If you feel that you seriously have a mental health problem, then you would seriously seek out help for that. And it is available. If you have a problem finding that, you're more than welcome to contact me. Let me know what area you're in, and you and I will find a place together for you to go. Also, there's a reason that some psychiatrists may or may not like to give you particular diagnosis. Some of them have personal judgments and opinions of their own. And some of these opinions may flow over into what they believe tax dollars should be spent on. And I know in the UK, if you receive a diagnosis of personality disorder, you're not going to be able to receive disability for that. It's not considered a mental illness here. And in some cases, psychiatrists will not even take you as a referral, because in the UK, personality disorder is something that you should deal with on your own. Unfortunately, they'll say you need CBT, but they won't refer you to a therapist. They basically say, go to this cafe. A lot of mentally ill people hang out there, and visit with them, and you'll be better. We know that's not how it goes. People dealing with personality disorders are really, really suffering, and it's not fair that they're made to feel that that suffering is either their fault or something they're not doing as far as processing information. It's just not right. It is, in my opinion, a mental illness. But again, that's just one aspect that I'm throwing out there. Some psychiatrists might not want to diagnose you with bipolar because of that reason. Additionally, no one should be diagnosing you, even a doctor, until they see you regularly. And I'm talking 1 to 2 times per month over a year period. In addition to that, you need to keep that mood journal for at least that year. So on the days that you are not seeing this doctor, You're writing this down as best as you can and how you would word it to them if you were actually speaking to them at that moment. Because they do need to see, are you having episodes of depression? How severe? How long is it lasting? What are you considering your manic episodes? How severe? What are the consequences of them? They do need all that information, and I would say no less than a year they will need to properly diagnose you. And I know here in the UK, unless you're paying out of pocket, you're not going to get that. So it is a long uphill battle. The last thing you need to be dealing with is people asking you whether or not you're bipolar 1 or 2. It should simply be enough to say, I'm bipolar. I suffer with frequent and rapid cycling. Or, I was told I have bipolar, but I'm working 9 to 5 every day. It's never affected my job. It's never affected a relationship. It's never, made me spend more money that I shouldn't have. There's been absolutely no negative consequences. Okay? Because at that point, it's possible you don't have bipolar. I don't know about you, but in the process of trying to get disability for this, I was met with, my friend's got bipolar. Yeah, they hold a full-time job. And then they look at you like, so what's your comeback for that? Or why can't you hold a full-time job? And unfortunately, at my age, 50 years old, that it's possible this person was given a wrong diagnosis, or they're very lucky and fortunate. And I don't have to compete with that person or compare myself to that person, because anybody with any amount of knowledge on mental health knows that bipolar is a spectrum disorder. And no two people are alike. And on a spectrum, the two ends are very far away from each other. So it is very possible to have one person's symptoms and another person's symptoms not reflect each other's in any way, shape, or form. And that doesn't mean that either one of them are or not. It's just how you perceive it. Additionally, many mentally ill people feel ashamed discussing these things, because even loved ones and family will make it clear that they don't think it's right that you don't have to work and you get to suck off their taxes just because you're unhappy once in a while. No. These people need to understand that a true mentally ill person, somebody who has been put on the disability list, someone who has to rely off of these taxes to live, 99.9% of them would trade places with the worker in an instant. They want to get up and feel the same every day. They want to feel grounded and in control, and they want to do the daily grind and earn money for themselves and their family and know the things that they worked for. They sit there suffering with heartache, anxiety, fear, guilt, unconscious and uncontrollable actions, and fight homicidal and suicidal urges every day, scraping by financially, and you think that's a choice? That's just stupid to assume that someone would choose that lifestyle. So, if anybody meets you with that, you just look at them and say, you're welcome to trade places with me. And until you do, zip it. Because too many people that know nothing talk a lot. I'm just trying to read here some of the things I wrote, and at the same time trying to not have silent moments, because my last podcast had like 2 or 3 stretches of silence. And so it says, I'm not going to get into all the toll of all the symptoms of bipolar, but my point of view was and simply is that they trade places with you in an instant. So after you keep your journal and you're able to see this person regularly and get a proper diagnosis, then you're able to go forward. I think that's the most important reason really to have a proper diagnosis, is so you know, number one, what you're dealing with. You're able to start climbing the ladder of dealing with bipolar, whereas if you don't get properly diagnosed, you're kind of just at the bottom ladder of all of these disorders, not knowing which way to go. So you're unable to direct your loved ones and not loved ones into a location that would educate them as far as what you're dealing with. I mean, even normal people can deal with depression, simply from overactivity. So it's easy that a normal person would exert extra energy on a day that they may not know why, and then hit what we call a crash. Oh, they'd say, yeah, I know what that is. But any normal person that exerted themselves more than they will, it's normal. Obviously, you would hope that they would experience what you would consider a crash of energy. That's normal. That doesn't make you bipolar. So I think this is where I'm going to end it here. Basically, I don't give a crap about 1 or 2. I only care about you getting a proper diagnosis so you can go forward. That's where I'm going to end it. You can tell me off or whatever. I don't give a shit. I think our next podcast, and when I say us, or our, or we, I am always talking about me and you guys listening, because I do consider all of Bipolar Me an us project. I'm sitting there posting stuff, but it's nothing without you saying, yeah, I experienced that, or this is what I've done in that experience, so, and it does tend to bring us together. So when I say us, it's all of us. Our next podcast is going to be a topic that we all hate. It's going to be about those people that say, if you just eat right and get regular sleep, you won't have these issues. I know a lot of people think that Jim Carrey is famous for saying things like this, and I think if you go back and listen to it properly, you'll understand that is not exactly what he's saying. He is actually saying it in a very good way. So that's going to be our next episode. Try to do that next week. I do have a hard time with my projects and following up with them, but I really like doing this, so I'm hoping that just the liking it's enough to keep me going. And obviously any support that you give me is going to help me want to do more podcasts. I want to thank you for listening. If no one else is there for you, I am always here for you. Additionally, we've got a chat group on Facebook called the Bipolar Me chat group. You can throw any question up in there, or pretty much anything, like, oh, I've just experienced this and, I'm feeling low or whatever, or what do you guys do for this, or how can I get help in my area? You can throw any question in there, and those people will try to answer you as quickly as they can. We've only got maybe 100, but we should be growing to a couple thousand within the next 6 months, I'd say. Maybe a year. But yeah, that's always there. My email's always there. There's always that button around that says message this person. So thank you again, and take care.